What is the best you fed with the wrong person moment you've seen? Was riding the bus home from school one day. Bunch of assholes messing around in the back throwing food and other junk. A quiet, overweight kid sat in front of them, minding his own business when one of the assholes thought it would be funny to shove an old sandwich in his face and call him fat boy. Quiet kid stood up and knocked him out in a single hit, then grabbed his bag and walked up to the front of the bus and got off at his stop, as if nothing happened. Watching my 72-year-old father beat the piss out of a guy who tried to steal my mom's purse. If I've learned anything growing up in the rural Midwestern USA, it's your battle with the wrong senior citizen might be your last. How hard are you, really? Went up against an 80-year-old farmhand turned farm owner who worked manual labor their whole life, has chain-smoked unfiltered Lucky Strikes since they were 14, hasn't consumed a liquid other than whiskey for the past 30 years, has healed being attacked by a bull with booze and some plants he picked in the woods, has so many medical ailments that doctors are placing bets on his lifespan, and who can still very coherently regale with stories of their time fighting wars overseas. There are more of these people dotted throughout middles of nowhere, USA, than one might think. I've fought a knife-wielding homeless guy before, and it is less intimidating than your average rural Terminator. We had a vendor who showed up once a week and was a bit of a hand masher, liked to crush your knuckles while shaking your hand. The boss had just hired a doughy-looking, middle-aged guy for the sales department. I told him to be wary shaking the vendor's hand. A few days later the vendor shows up, puts his hand out to the new guy with a big smile, and goes in for the kill. At first everyone is smiling. The new guy is looking him in the eye while pumping his hand furiously, then stops. The smile melts off the vendor's face. He had a pained look on his face as his lips pursed together. The vendor yelped along the aisle, and dropped the new guy's hand like it was lava. Pulled the new guy aside and asked how he did that. 10 years I drove a tow truck. Must have changed thousands of flat tires with just hand tools. Nobody crushes my hand. There was this guy who was part of our group in college. He was an ass, but he was one of the guys' brothers, so he hung out with us a lot. Whenever he would get drunk he would try to pick fights. We would just shake it off and ignore him. One of the guys hosted a pretty big night party. As it goes, this dude got drunk and tried to pick fights again. People were getting uncomfortable. There was one guy at the party who was about 6'4" and built like a tank who was just not having it. He waited to be confronted and then immediately carried the guy outside and threw him down on a stair and broke his leg. He stopped picking fights after that. Donghead bully screwed with a younger kid in high school who was super nice and a really good friend of mine. I didn't like it, so I got in the bully's face and told him I'd kicked his ass. Well, we went at it and I absolutely got the it kicked out of me. Fricker knew judo or something. Yeah. I fricked with the wrong person. I'd do it again though. 7th grade science. Bully, almost more of a bully's henchman, said something about a quiet kid's mother. Quiet kid's mom was dead. Quiet kid also apparently studied boxing. Who knew? What did you say about my mom? Wham! What did you say about my mom? Wham! Bully henchman was so shocked he did nothing and took the 2 straight punches to his face. I don't think he got in trouble. Happened before the teacher came in. There was this guy who played drums all the time in Hawaii on the city strip. Nice guy, never chatted much except for a wave and to throw him a few dollars. Some drunk tourist decided it would be fun to mess with his drums. Guy gave him so many chances to walk away. Drunk tourist wins up for a punch and the dude just knocked him out in one punch. I just stood there and my buddy had the presence of mind to tell the guy to pack his it and leave before the cops come. Guy was pretty fricked up and we helped him till the ambulance came. I'm pretty sure with the way that his jaw looked it wouldn't be a short recovery. My high school boyfriend and my older brother. My freshman year of high school I met Scotty. He was a little on the weird side. A scene kid, but he was nice enough. Until the day he decided to hit me. I said something he didn't agree with and in retaliation he slapped the bejesus out of me. If there was an award for best bitch slap then Scotty won it. My head snapped back. Saliva flew from my mouth. Tears formed in my eyes. We had been in the car, sitting in traffic behind some accident or other. He kicked me out of the car and made me walk home. I sat down on the side of the road and called my brother, because I wasn't ready to deal with my mother's reaction. My brother showed up in his Jeep, held up traffic on a Friday afternoon to make sure I was okay. He had even stopped at the store and bought me a bag of frozen peas for me cheek. We drove on. The car was deadly silent. My brother was steely-faced, white-knuckle gripping the wheel, pure white anger in his eyes. We drove past our road and kept going. He pulled into Scotty's yard and stormed up to the door. I stayed in the car. Scotty came out, 5'7" to my brother's 6'3". My brother grabbed him by the shirt and lifted him a good foot off the ground. I didn't hear what was said. All I know is my brother never had to hit the kid. Whatever he said to him made Scotty go pale and shaky. Brother laid him down on the front porch, came back down, got in the Jeep and wrecked that boy's front yard. Tore it the hell up. Scotty's dad was one of those guys who won awards for his yard. Scotty had to explain to his dad why his yard was messed up. His parents called and apologized for their son's behavior. We never heard another word from Scotty. As an older brother, all I can say is, frick yes. Me drunk as frick on a party bus for my cousin's 21st, being a complete ass, because I was letting my brother who had issues with someone get me worked up on his drama. Got in a huge brawl outside of one of the stops and decided to take a shot at one of the guys I didn't like. Hit him with everything I had. I mean everything. I literally broke my fricking hand on his face. He got up, looked at me, and calmly said, "You just fricked up." He was right. There was a family in my neighborhood that fostered a lot of Asian boys. One was in my class. A couple were older. They lived 3 houses down from my best friend, and he became very close with the boy in our class. We can call him John. In retrospect, it seems obvious that while he was in our class, he was obviously older and was probably placed with us so he could catch up with his education. He was a great guy. When we were in high school, a kid from the class ahead of us took a special interest in picking on my friend. He was constantly fricking with him. It escalated to him challenging my friend to fights, and finally showing up in our neighborhood. Eventually he shows up one day and confronts my friend in the street. John witnessed this and comes out to challenge the bully, and utterly and completely destroys this kid, who had to 50 pounds heavier. He was one of those big red-headed kids, and the much smaller, much faster Asian kid beat the shit out of him before he knew what happened. It was watching a Bruce Lee movie live. Afterwards my friend just walked up to me and said, "Well, I guess that's the end of my bully's name problem." It was. Another time, different kid, was fostered by the same family, was getting picked on relentlessly by some upperclassmen. They were using racial slurs, running him off the road with their cars when he rode his bike around. Finally he had enough one day at school, and gets into with the ringleader of the bullies. Through broken English and a lot of Vietnamese swearing, he agrees to meet them at the only gas station in town after school to settle things. Kid shows up to confrontation and removes a glass bottle from his bag, promptly breaks it and brandishes the jagged glass like a knife. Cue the bully immediately running to his car and taking off while the kid says that this is how you settle your honor in his country, or something to that effect. No one messed with him anymore after that incident. Scrappy Chihuahua man road rages at me. I flip him off and pull into the grocery store parking lot. I needed to get formula for my daughter. He followed me. "Oh dear. Get out of the car, F-ot. I'm gonna kick your ass." Okay, I'm 6 feet 5 inches, bald, bearded, and since I lost weight and started lifting, I've been mistaken for similar-looking NFL defensive lineman. I got out of my bright green Volkswagen Beetle, crossed my arms, and looked straight at him for about 10 seconds before he got back in his itty little Honda and peeled out of the parking lot. Good thing too, I don't know how to fight, LOL. Yuppie frat boy in an econ course I was taking my freshman year got caught cheating. At my university, we all sign a contract agreeing to their honor code policies, and cheating is an automatic expulsion. But the professor decided to be nice, and was just going to give the kid a 0 on the exam. Frat kid doesn't think that's enough, and it turns into an argument. Kid starts saying how in his family is at the university, and how none of this matters, because he'll just pull some strings. Long story short, our professor is actually close friends with the chancellor of our school. Not only did the kid get expelled from the school, but they somehow got him into legal trouble as well for some of the comments made in class that day. I don't know what was said that could have been used against him, but the kid ended up in some deep pit. I didn't witness it, but when I worked for it, a gentleman and his wife came in, because his son's iPhone 6 was bent. So, they wanted to get him a new phone. How did it get bent? Some turd held the boy up while he was walking home from school, taking his money and his phone. Both of his parents were retired police officers, and his father trained SWAT tactics and hand-to-hand combat. The son went home empty-handed and was initially scared to tell his parents, because the thief told the boy he knew where he lived and threatened him. His parents eventually got him to tell them what happened. The thief was hanging out at a laundromat near their home when the robbery took place. The dad called his cop buddies, who immediately rolled up to the laundromat along with the dad, where they apprehended the guy who still had the phone in his pocket. It got bent during the ensuing scuffle. Dude stole from the wrong kid. The kid was very polite and kind while in the store. He seemed pretty shook up. I was glad for him that his dad had his back. This is low-key, but I enjoyed it. My first week at a white-collar job. My first such job. And we were in the middle of a department-wide meeting. About 17 co-workers and supervisors all together. The person leading the meeting asks a question of no one in particular, and several of us answer. My answer differed from the rest. One guy turns to me and says, "Let's leave these questions to the people who actually have a master's degree, shall we?" I looked at him and said, "I have a master's degree." The room went silent, except for one guy who loudly oohed. I had given the correct answer. To top it off. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button and leave a comment which story you liked the most. Subscribe and hit the bell notification for updates on our latest videos. And don't forget to check the links in the description box for more awesome content.